We bring in now Governor Christie, who prosecuted some of the cases relating to 9/11, former United States attorney who has dealt with terrorism-related charges. I know you're just hearing about this right now, as we all are as well. What, in your experience, is going on right now, and what should everybody out there listening to us right now, certainly those in Buffalo and the state of New York in particular, be aware of in your mind at this point in time?
Well, guys, first off, I think what the FBI is doing is dispatching their people who can deal with forensic evidence at the scene, that vehicle, everything that's in it, the type of explosives that were used, the type of detonator that was used, and any other information that might be on the two dead terrorists or alleged terrorists now inside that vehicle, is everything the forensic folks are going to be working out with the FBI. Second, the FBI is going to be looking at all the information they have from their joint terrorism task forces around the country that work with the U.S. attorney's offices and local law enforcement to see if there are any dots that can be connected there. They're also going to be talking to our intelligence community that works this portion of our country and Canada to see what they're getting there. And that'll be where they'll start. And, look, this should not be surprising to any of us. And this is why America, in my view, guys, has to be engaged in the world. We are not on an island here. And when things happen in other parts of the world, there's going to be an impact here in the U.S. potentially. We have to be prepared to deal with it. And we need to be engaged with the rest of the world to try to lessen that threat by showing strength around the world. And the weakness that Joe Biden has been showing is a problem, and it's going to be a problem that's going to continue to create more conflict, not less. Strength lessens conflict, weakness increases it.
We're talking to Governor Christie. So obviously we're going to continue to monitor this situation in Buffalo. Any updates, staff will hit me with almost in real time. So we'll continue to update you on this in the final hour of the show as we head into Thanksgiving. But you just mentioned the campaign, the situation that's going on there. I looked at national polling coming out basically this morning. This is the National Republican primary from Emerson. I'm sure you've seen it. It has you at 3% overall. Trump at 64%, Haley at 9%, DeSantis at 8%, Ramaswamy at 5%. If you believe that's accurate, do you think you're around 3% nationwide right now?
No, I don't think it's accurate. And by the way, I don't think it matters. We don't have a national primary, fellas. If we had a national primary, then this would be over. We have a primary that goes state by state by state. And if you look at those numbers, Donald Trump is 25 to 30 points lower than what he is in the national polls. And in New Hampshire, I'm 14 points higher than what it has me in the national polls. And those elections in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina are going to happen well before anything else. And the results there will impact what people think around the country.
Okay, so Iowa, New Hampshire, January, February, you are doing well in some of those New Hampshire state polls. It's clear you don't want Donald Trump to be president of the United States. If you do not win in Iowa, New Hampshire, would you then drop out of the race and endorse someone other than Trump? Is that the natural progression? Is it fair to say you need to win in Iowa, New Hampshire, or come in a very close second at minimum?
Look, I think I need to do well in New Hampshire. That's what I need to do, and that's what I intend to do. And then we'll evaluate the campaign thereafter. But if I do well in New Hampshire, which I expect to do, I'm going to be in this thing for the long haul.
If Trump's the nominee, will you vote for him?
Guys, I don't think Trump's going to be the nominee, so I don't think we need to worry about that. I think Trump is not going to be the nominee. But what I've said, and I said this in the first debate, if Donald Trump's convicted of felonies, I could not support a convicted felon for president.
So who would you vote for? I mean, just honestly, because I understand you can say, well, that's a hypothetical. But really the entire presidential campaign is a hypothetical. You say, if I'm elected, I'm going to do X or I'm going to do Y. Right now, if you look at the markets, just gambling markets, look at the polls, whatever else, Trump would be favored to be the nominee. So if it's Trump versus Biden, would you vote for Biden? Would you not show up and vote? What would your decision be?
No, I could not vote for Joe Biden. I don't believe Joe Biden is either mentally or philosophically competent to remain in the presidency. And so I could not vote for Joe Biden, and I'd have to see what my options were at the time. But, fellas, in the end, what we're talking about here are all hypotheticals, because at this point, 8 years ago, Jeb Bush was winning New Hampshire, and Ben Carson was winning Iowa by 10 points. So I'm sorry, I just am not going to get involved in talking about what polling looks like today. Those poll questions are saying if the election were held today. Well, if the election were held today, I would be shocked, because it's not being held today. So I'm about talking about what matters to this country and matters to its citizens, and I guarantee you polling isn't one of those things.
Understood. You also are running against not only Donald Trump, but also Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley and Vivek Ramaswamy. Are any of those three people in your mind qualified to be president of the United States?
Look, I think both Nikki and Ron are qualified to be president.
You didn't mention Vivek. Why do you think he's not? Those are you guys are the top 5 candidates at this point in time. So you think Nikki and DeSantis both qualified to be president, not Trump, not Vivek. What is it about Vivek that you don't think fits the bill?
I just don't think he's a serious candidate. I don't think he's someone who has the type of experience, the type of temperament, nor the type of platform that should be taken seriously as a presidential candidate.
All right, let's say that you think DeSantis and Nikki Haley are both qualified to be president. I imagine that they would probably say the same about you. I'll ask them the next time they're on the show. If you had to choose between Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis right now as the most qualified, which of those two is?
I think they pretty much have equal qualifications.
Oh, that's a great answer. You're a sports guy, Governor, and that is like me asking you, that's like me saying to you, okay, Patrick Mahomes or, I don't know, we could pick, let's say, if Joe Burrow wasn't injured, which is a better quarterback if you have to win a game? And you say, I think it's a dead heat. I don't think I could pick. Or if I said, hey, I don't know how much of a college football fan you are.
Big
but if I
college football fan.
All right, so Michigan and Ohio State are playing this weekend, right? Hugest game going on in college football. Who's going to win?
I think Ohio State's going to win.
All right, you didn't say to me, I think it's dead even. I think it's 50-50.
No, but I do think that on a qualifications basis, if you look at their background and experience, that Ron and Nikki are essentially the same from an experience perspective. They're both 2-term governors of important states. They've had some other backgrounds, Ron in Congress, Nikki in the state legislature before that. I think from an experience perspective, qualifications perspective, they're essentially even in that regard. I mean,
if
I give you an honest answer.
Yeah, no, it's a convenient.
My honest opinion.
If you believe, and I think you do, that Trump shouldn't be the nominee, and I think certainly DeSantis and Nikki Haley would agree with that too, at what point does there need to be a consensus alternative in your mind to Donald Trump, whether it's you, DeSantis, Nikki Haley, or maybe even Vivek? What's the time frame look like?
I think it's going to happen after the first 4 primaries, after the early primaries. So Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada. I think after those, you're probably down to no more than 3 candidates, including Donald Trump, and maybe 2. I just think that's going to kind of be the natural way it will go here, given the way the calendar plays out. And let's face it, guys, the consolidation in this race has been significantly better than any time this century when we didn't have an incumbent. At this time, 8 years ago in 2015, we had 13 candidates still in the race at this point. In 2011, we had 8 candidates still in the race. And in 2007, we had 9 candidates still in the race. So this thing is consolidated very quickly, very well. I'm in the last 5. This is the smallest the field's been really since the turn of the century in 2000. So I think it's consolidated well. I think you have, very serious people that are available to be voted for here. I think I'm the best and most experienced person, but the voters are going to decide ultimately who our nominee is. But I'm in for the fight, as I have been, and I think, if people had been, if I'd been listening to the odds makers, 6 months ago, I would have never gotten in the race, and certainly they would have never thought that I would have been here 6 months later. But here I am.
Are you going to be on the stage in Tuscaloosa, Alabama? Speaking of college football, the 4th Republican debate. Have you qualified?
Yes, sir. Already qualified. We've already passed the 80,000 donors, and we have two national polls at 6% or over, and we have obviously a number of polls in New Hampshire that have us in the teens.
Dallas Cowboys play tomorrow. They are playing against the Washington Commanders. They'll always be the Redskins in my mind, so I sometimes mix up the names still. Yeah, you too. All right. Are the Cowboys, in your mind, a legitimate Super Bowl contender this year, and what happens tomorrow?
They are a legitimate Super Bowl contender. The NFC, has really four teams that I think are legitimate contenders, right? The Eagles are a legitimate contender. The 49ers are a legitimate contender. And I think that the Detroit Lions are actually a legitimate contender the way they're playing this year.
I agree with all of that, by the way. I agree with your analysis of the NFC right now. I agree with all that. Okay, so Cowboys they're a contender. What happens tomorrow?
Cowboys win comfortably tomorrow. I'd say Cowboys win by 17 to 21 points tomorrow. It will be another good performance for the Cowboys, and they're going to be getting ready for two big games coming up after this. The Seahawks, who are a good team, and then Philadelphia will be coming to Dallas, and that'll be a big game.
Good team in the AFC is the Kansas City Chiefs. Do you think Travis Kelce's performance on the field is being negatively impacted by his relationship with Taylor Swift?
No, I think it's probably positively being impacted.
All right.
I think I've never seen the guy happier in his entire career, so I think he's probably doing really well. I think what affected him on Monday night was the Eagles were triple teaming him, and nobody else on the Chiefs can catch a pass. I mean, for God's sakes, me, you, and everybody else could have caught that pass that Valdez-Scantling dropped in the game in the fourth quarter. I mean, I could have caught that. I couldn't have gotten that open, but if I was that open, I guarantee I would have caught it.
Last question for you, Governor. We're talking to Christie right now on the eve of Thanksgiving. 60th anniversary of the JFK assassination. Do you think that Lee Harvey Oswald fired every shot and that JFK was killed solely by Lee Harvey Oswald in terms of shots fired on that day in Dallas?
No, I don't, and I never have.
What do you think happened?
It was clearly a conspiracy. I don't know amongst whom, but there's no doubt in my mind that Lee Harvey Oswald did not act alone. And when Oswald yelled out, "I'm a patsy," when he was being arrested, I think he was giving us a signal, and I believe Jack Ruby was part of the conspiracy, and I think they killed Oswald to keep him quiet.
I agree with everything you just said. I do on the I should say on the JFK 60-year anniversary analysis.
Don't get yourself in trouble now.
I know. There's no telling what people are going to say, but I take that there. All right, Governor, enjoy the games tomorrow. We'll talk to you again soon, and I'll maybe see you down in Tuscaloosa.
Thanks for having me on today. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Same to you and yours. That is Governor Christie, who will be on the stage, he says, in December down on the 4th Republican debate.